Hello and welcome to the fourth webinar by Search for Common Ground on countering violent extremism. In this webinar, we'll explore how we can increase collaboration across different sectors of society with a particular focus on government and civil society. Now, what do we mean by civil society? Civil society is the broad term for organizations and institutions that act in the interests of citizens. Now, we would expand this beyond its traditional definition to include informal collectives, labor unions, activists, charities, religious institutions, and more. Collaboration in countering violent extremism, again, helps us to promote an all-of-society approach, which offers us many benefits as we collaborate. For example, it increases the efficiency of our work and deepens the impact. It expands the kinds of stakeholders that are actively involved in this field, and it offers us more tools and approaches that we can use as we work to counter violent extremism. Collaboration helps us to highlight the goals that we share and allows us to embrace our various strengths to work on different parts of the same issue so that we can, at least in essence, share the burden. This also builds shared understandings of the problem so that we can better have common goals and solutions, and it increases the communication we have with one another to build trust. Now, you will always hear that we need to collaborate together on complex issues like violent extremism. But despite all the many times this has been said, we still lack or only have limited collaboration, especially here in the field of countering violent extremism. This can be driven by inaccurate information about what people's interests are, or that we have incompatible attitudes, or simply perceive that we have incompatible attitudes about our solutions to the problem. For example, civil society may be hesitant to work with government actors if they believe that the government is only interested or only encouraging security-focused solutions to the problem of violent extremism. Because we reflect different sectors of society, we may have different interests or priorities, meaning that what is important to one organization, institution, or maybe even a different ministry of the government may not be as important to another. This can result to our own feelings that we should work on our own interests rather than collaborate. Finally, effective collaboration may require a lot of skills. We just may simply lack the resources to do this effectively and to do it well. However, we would like to offer the following good practices to increase the effectiveness of our collaboration. We should formalize collaboration in national, regional, or local action plans. However, if they are to encourage collaboration, they've got to be drafted in a collaborative process. Otherwise, when these strategies are produced without the input of civil society, for example, they might not encourage civil society participation where collaboration is actually needed. Now, we should be careful when we begin to collaborate to use those channels for other purposes. This would allow us to maintain our relationships by not using these opportunities to bring up unrelated issues that can take time away from the issue of violent extremism, or perhaps even damage the relationship. Now, this next point is incredibly important. Don't use programs to prevent and counter violent extremism as a cover for broad law enforcement or intelligence gathering opportunities. Already, the field of countering violent extremism is perceived in a very securitized way, and it can be a constant struggle to gain and maintain the trust of our beneficiaries. Therefore, we should not create issues with trust in our own collaborative efforts, okay? In the beginning, as we begin to collaborate, it may be important that we build better relationships of trust. And we can do that by using broad collaboration. So instead of engaging one-on-one between, let's say, one government institution and one civil society organization, it could perhaps be more helpful to have very broad platforms that include multiple agencies and civil society organizations together, where they can work on an issue, because it actually reduces that pressure that you would have in a one-on-one relationship. Of course, we should always respect each other's concerns for confidentiality, and we should openly discuss how we would want the information that we share inside that collaboration to be shared outside the partnerships and respect those choices. Now, as our collaboration develops, it's important for us to define our roles and responsibilities together and be open about our own limitations that we could face with certain activities. That encourages an open and honest process that's clear for us all. Finally, we should recognize that personal collaboration and institutional collaboration are actually different things that require special efforts. That means that we have to pay attention, that if a specific person who was our long-term partner on a specific effort was to leave, that we would have an institutional collaboration built up so that we could maintain our relationship beyond that person's departure if they were to leave. Finally, as we begin to think about creating a multisectoral approach to countering violent extremism, we should remember that governments and civil society organizations bring unique skill sets and resources to these efforts. We should build on those strengths and seek ways to overcome the challenges that we each might face. Now, even though collaboration is almost a universally held belief, effective collaboration may not be happening currently because we just may not have the right information about our partners or the various time or resources in order to make that collaboration effective. Also, distrust actually just eliminates the number of tools and opportunities that we have to work on countering violent extremism together. So if a government, for example, weren't able to partner with civil society organizations, or maybe civil society wasn't even allowed to work on the issue of violent extremism because it was deemed to be too sensitive or too security focused, governments would be left to only use their own tools, those within their toolkit to address the issue. Now, if our collaboration is unhealthy, then our efforts can actually create tensions or issues that can become drivers of violent extremism. Finally, collaborating in the countering violent extremism space requires long-term commitments that are built on mutual trust and common understandings of the problem. So as we move forward with this webinar series, we will continue to explore ways to bring other sectors or members of society into our countering violent extremism efforts. So therefore, these concepts that we discussed here, while focused on the collaboration between government and civil society, they're actually applicable to the following modules as well. Thank you.